Picture this, a skinny teenager with a floppy haircut who the internet claims looks exactly like a pointy Italian shoe that was turned into a real boy by a witch's curse. He is a kid who once filmed a painfully awkward high school rap video about statistics that earned him a D+, completely unaware that in just a few short years, he would become Hollywood's ultimate leading man, a $35 million face of Chanel, and the youngest male actor to snag 3 Academy Award nominations since Marlon Brando. We are talking about the internet's undisputed king of the Softboys, the man who turned down Spider-Man, conquered the deadly deserts of Iraqis, and is currently dividing the internet by simultaneously dating a Kardashian Jenner and making his Broadway debut, playing Mary Todd Lincoln. Today we are diving deep into the meticulously crafted, surprisingly strategic, and undeniably brilliant world of Timothée Chalamet. We are breaking down everything from his early days in a mafia-infiltrated neighborhood and the intense controversies surrounding his breakout roles, to his untouchable fashion evolution, his genius career playbook, and the bizarre scandals you probably missed. To understand how Timothée Chalamet conquered Hollywood, we have to go back to his roots. Born on December 27, 1995, in New York City, he grew up in Manhattan Plaza in Hell's Kitchen. This was no ordinary apartment building. It was a federally subsidized artist block, built after the mafia had infiltrated the neighborhood so heavily that the federal government actually cut a deal to provide low-income housing for struggling, crazy artists. Growing up in this unique environment, his neighbors included a young Alicia Keys and Samuel L. Jackson. Creativity was quite literally in his blood. His mother, Nicole Flender, was a former Broadway dancer. His French father worked as an editor for UNICEF, and his sister Pauline is also an actress. Spent his childhood summers in France, absorbing a rich cultural duality that would later define his effortlessly sophisticated persona. It was here that he created his legendary rap alter ego, Lil Timmy Tim. On June 13, 2013, he submitted a deeply embarrassing yet hilarious rap video titled Statistics for his math class. The performance, which features him aggressively dancing and rapping about probability, has since garnered millions of views online, though tragically, it only earned him a D+ from his teacher. He also participated in school talent shows, famously dancing to Nicki Minaj Roman's Revenge. His professional acting career started humbly with small television spots, including a role on Law & Order where he played a murder victim named Eric Foley who dies in the very first scene. During his senior year of high school, he landed a recurring role in Homeland as Finn Walden, the rebellious son of the vice president who gets involved in a fatal hit-and-run. The demanding shooting schedule caused him to miss half of his senior year. Following high school, he attended Columbia University for a year but admitted to floundering. Returning to the strict structures of an academic institution was incredibly difficult after tasting the freedom of making movies. He eventually transferred to New York University to carve his own path. Soon after, he appeared in Christopher Nolan's massive sci-fi epic Interstellar, playing Matthew McConaughey's son, slowly inching his way into the Hollywood spotlight. But to understand how he was catapulted into the stratosphere, we have to talk about the role that changed everything. Luca Guadagnino's 2017 masterpiece, Call Me By Your Name. The casting process was incredibly unconventional. Chalamet's agent introduced him to Guadagnino in New York. Because the director notoriously dislikes having actors do traditional chemistry reads, he simply had a conversation with Timothée and loosely attached him to the project immediately. At the time, there wasn't even a finished screenplay, so an eager Timothée went to a local library to borrow the original novel by Andre Aciman. He ended up getting a copy through a Harvard University sharing program, completely forgot to return it, and got slapped with a $100 fine. To authentically portray Elio Perlman, a 17-year-old experiencing a profound sexual awakening in 1983 Italy, Chalamet spent a month and a half in the country before filming even started, meticulously learning to speak Italian and playing both the guitar and the piano. The on-set environment was highly unorthodox. His co-star Armie Hammer recounted their very first rehearsal together. Instead of reading lines, Guadagnino instructed the two actors to get down in the grass and make out passionately. The two began kissing, waiting for the director to yell cut. But when they finally stopped and looked up, Guadagnino had completely walked away, leaving them rolling in the dirt alone. And of course, there is the infamous, unforgettable peach scene. Timothée initially thought such a vulnerable, bizarre moment would take 8 or 9 takes to get right, but it came surprisingly sizzly, taking only 1 or 2 takes to capture. His luminous, heartbreaking performance earned him a Best Actor Oscar nomination, making him the 3rd youngest nominee in the history of the Academy Awards, at just 22 years old. Almost overnight, Chalamet didn't just become a massive star. He became the defining face of an entire cultural shift. He ushered in the era of the Softboy. For those unfamiliar with the deep lore of internet culture, the Softboy archetype emerged as a direct, powerful rejection of traditional, toxic masculinity by a younger generation. Following the massive cultural reckoning of the Me Too movement, a vast demographic of straight women were completely exhausted by aggressive macho archetypes and desperately craved someone gentle, sensitive, and respectful. Instead of the muscled, grizzled, emotionally unavailable action heroes of the past, the soft boy is skinny, clean-shaven, emotionally intelligent, and deeply in touch with his feelings. At the exact same time, Chalamet was wholeheartedly embraced by the gay community. By starring in deeply emotional queer narratives while radiating an insouciant charm, he captured an intersecting matrix of desire from both straight women and gay men. His appeal was so unprecedented that he even playfully responded to being officially crowned by the internet and queer media as Hollywood's straight prince of twinks. People online joked that he looked like every single character in Love Actually, a Charles Dickens character with a jam band, or a Victorian governess to 7 children. Whether he was playing a heartbroken alternative slacker in Lady Bird, or diving into complex emotional depths in Beautiful Boy, his resume of soft and atypical performances completely redefined the modern Hollywood male sex symbol. But if you think his rapid rise to the top was just luck, good cheekbones, and internet memes, you are wildly underestimating his brilliant business acumen. Timothée Chalamet operates on what industry insiders call the absolute, most disciplined career playbook in modern Hollywood. Early in his career, an older, highly respected mentor, widely rumored across the industry to be Leonardo DiCaprio, pulled him aside at a party and gave him 2 strict rules to live by: no hard drugs and no superhero movies, while his peers were eagerly signing massive, multi-film contracts to wear capes and spandex. Locking themselves into grueling 10-year commitments that completely defined their public image, Chalamet chose the absolute power of the word no. Interestingly, he actually did audition for the role of Spider-Man back in 2015. He was so nervous that he walked out of the room sweating in a total panic. He begged his agent to let him go back and redo it, but ultimately decided to let the dream go, a decision that changed the trajectory of his entire life. By strictly avoiding the Marvel and DC universes, he preserved a rare aura of artistic credibility that high-end luxury fashion houses find absolutely irresistible. Most aspiring actors simply don't understand this pipeline, but Chalamet mastered it. Prestige performances drive cultural value, and cultural value attracts massive luxury endorsements. His decision to stick to auteur-driven films landed him a staggering $35 million multi-year deal as the face of Chanel's Bleu de Chanel fragrance, a single payday that dwarfed all of his film salaries combined. He also signed on as a global ambassador for Cartier and recently became the face of Lucid Motors, perfectly rounding out his portfolio of sustainable luxury. Because he let these massive luxury brands completely fund his lifestyle, he afforded himself the absolute freedom to be incredibly picky about his movie roles, creating an artificial scarcity that only drove up his ultimate price tag. To anchor his wealth, he purchased an $11 million mansion in Beverly Hills from model Kate Upton, cementing his status while maintaining a surprisingly low-profile lifestyle. And when he does choose a blockbuster role, he makes absolutely sure it pays off. Take Denis Villeneuve's epic sci-fi masterpiece, Dune. The director didn't even consider anyone else for the role of Paul Atreides. Chalamet was his only choice. He successfully carried a billion-dollar franchise without sacrificing a single ounce of his indie credibility. After making a modest $2.2 million for the first film, and $3 million for the second, his compensation for the highly anticipated Dune Part 3 is expected to skyrocket. Thanks to back-end global box office participation, he could walk away with $15 to $30 million for a single movie. On top of that, he is pulling in $25 million to star in James Mangold's upcoming film High Side, where he plays a former motorcycle racer turned bank robber who executes heists on superbikes. He has established himself in an exclusive financial tier, reserved for fewer than a dozen working actors at any given time. But you honestly cannot talk about Timothée Chalamet without talking about his jaw-dropping, totally fearless evolution on the red carpet. He almost single-handedly resurrected men's fashion from the boring graveyard of simple black tuxedos. He took risk after risk, completely rewriting the rigid rules of Hollywood menswear. The ultimate turning point was the 2019 Golden Globes, where he absolutely broke the internet by showing up in a custom sparkling Louis Vuitton harness, or bib, depending on who you ask, layered over a sharp black shirt. From there, he was completely unstoppable. He rocked a head-to-toe white Givenchy suit at the Oscars, paired a slick Hayter Ackerman jacket with basic Converse sneakers at the Met Gala, and showed up to the Venice Film Festival looking immaculate. At the 2022 Academy Awards, he completely threw the formal dress code out the window, walking the carpet in an edgy sequined Louis Vuitton suit, with absolutely no shirt underneath, casually dripping in Cartier jewelry. He proved that he could make literally anything work, perfectly blending high-fashion tailoring with his signature effortless swagger. His intense dedication to his craft is just as serious as his dedication to his wardrobe. When he signed on to play the legendary Bob Dylan in the James Mangold biopic A Complete Unknown, the pressure was completely unimaginable. Playing a living music icon means facing millions of die-hard fans ready to tear apart any false note. But Chalamet committed entirely. He spent 5 years obsessively preparing, learning the guitar and harmonica, studying Dylan's exact physicality, and working tirelessly with vocal coaches to perfectly nail that distinctive nasal delivery. His live-wire performance was so incredibly accurate that it rightfully earned him his second Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, and Bob Dylan himself publicly praised the performance on social media, an affirmation that Chalamet called deeply validating. Then came the ultimate wildcard, Marty Supreme. Directed by the notoriously intense Josh Safdie, this sports comedy drama loosely based on the life of a 1950s ping-pong hustler was a massive creative gamble. It was Safdie's first solo directorial outing in years, and the movie secured an unprecedented $70 million budget from A24, the largest in the entire studio's history. Chalamet completely threw himself into the character of Marty Mauser, an energetic, highly self-involved Lower East Side outcast with dreams of bringing table tennis to the masses. He was so deeply dedicated that he installed a ping-pong table in his New York apartment, training so rigorously that the director literally compared his choreographed repetitive movements to the legendary ballet dancer Mikhail Baryshnikov. The massive risk paid off spectacularly. His brilliant performance won him the Golden Globe and the Critics' Choice Award, along with his historic third Oscar nomination. As his artistic star power reached its absolute peak, his personal life took a turn that absolutely nobody saw coming. In the spring of 2023, Chalamet began officially dating beauty mogul and reality television royalty, Kylie Jenner. The internet practically short-circuited. It was a brand collision of completely epic proportions. On one side, you had Chalamet's loyal audience of prestige film enthusiasts and high-fashion millennials. On the other, you had Jenner's massive, 400 million strong social media empire deeply rooted in the Kardashian reality television ecosystem. The overlap between these two highly specific worlds was completely non-existent, which is exactly why the paparazzi could not get enough of them. They started making highly publicized appearances, stepping out at the Marty Supreme premiere in matching neon orange chrome hearts outfits, and perfectly coordinating monochrome Dolce & Gabbana suits for the Wall Street Journal Awards. At the Critics' Choice Awards, he publicly cemented their relationship during his acceptance speech, warmly thanking his partner of 3 years. But he hasn't always stayed quiet when it comes to industry politics and controversy. During the peak of the Time's Up and Me Too movements, Chalamet found himself starring in Woody Allen's A Rainy Day in New York City, facing mounting public pressure and a desire to stand on the right side of history. He announced on Instagram that he was donating his entire salary from the film to the Time's Up campaign, the LGBT Center, and RAIN. And just recently, he managed to kick a massive donor-supported hornet's nest during a CNN town hall discussion with Matthew McConaughey. He boldly claimed that he had absolutely zero interest in working in opera or ballet, because in his exact words, "No one cares about this anymore." The backlash was instant and highly entertaining. The managing director of the Metropolitan Opera publicly fired back, calling the comments absolutely outrageous and fiercely defending their beloved art form. Chalamet stubbornly refused to walk back his statements, basically shrugging it off and saying that Broadway, where people willingly pay $900 a ticket just to breathe the same air as A-list celebrities, is much more his kind of gig. And speaking of Broadway, that brings us to his highly anticipated, slightly unhinged stage debut. Instead of taking on a traditional, serious, dramatic role, Chalamet is pivoting to absolute, glorious absurdity. This summer, he is taking over the title role in the gleefully inaccurate smash hit historical comedy, Oh Mary. Yes, Timothée Chalamet will literally be making his Broadway debut as Mary Todd Lincoln, plotting a desperate return to the stage while her husband tries to hold the Union together during the Civil War. He told reporters, over a bacon, egg, and cheese bagel in New York, that he wanted to finally put the notion that he didn't care about live theater to rest by taking on a role that felt tailor-made for him, taking over a part previously played by drag queens and comedic legends. It is the ultimate unpredictable flex from an actor who absolutely refuses to be boxed in by anyone's expectations. Thanks for watching. If you don't smash that subscribe button right now, remember that Lil Timmy Tim is statistically proven to show up in your living room, aggressively rap about Ms. Lawton while wearing a 19th century corset, and force you into an underground ping pong match until you admit that nobody cares about the ballet anymore. Stay supreme.